What's up, everyone? Keith Lynch, TDK Endurance Sports. Just out with the dog at the park, going for a little walk. I'm in the week 10 of 14 for my second consecutive Boston Marathon. Coming up, did a nice little track workout, 14 miles on the morning, 3 miles at lunch, 17 miles on the day. Got 2 more weeks and then peak week, so I'm ready to go. But yeah, I wanted to talk to y'all. Topic of the day: why everyone should use a coach. I'm not saying that you have to use one every time you're training for something like a marathon or half marathon or Ironman or triathlon or cycling or whatever sport you're doing, whether it's weights as well. But what I want to say and suggest that everyone needs to be held accountable. Everyone cannot be trusted. You can't trust yourself. Therefore, I would suggest at some point in your life, if you really want to exceed expectations, if you want to get stronger, I really highly suggest paying for a coach, using a coach. Minimally, at least surround yourself with people to bounce ideas off and train. That way you can learn from each other and not make as big as mistakes as if you were doing it alone. So one thing with my experiences before I started my coaching business is I was self-trained. I did Ironman, trained myself, before Ironman, did Olympic triathlon, trained myself. I read up, researched stuff. Now, I mean, I was athletically gifted and naturally had a desire to do endurance things later on in my life. I'm 44 now. In my late 20s, I started to dabble into endurance stuff. But like I said, I mean, Ironman, I finished top 10% overall, won an award, finished with 11-hour time, my first time and only time. Plan to do one more Ironman to try to get into Kona. But like I said, and I mean, I did cycling, had a mentor for cycling. Shout out to Marson. Won a race, finished top 40 on one of the toughest races in northern Georgia, 104.3 miles, 12,000 elevation gain. I trained myself in Ironman. And then luckily, after I did a bike racing, I got into marathon racing. And the first thing I did was I found a friend, luckily someone who lived by. Shout out to Greg Caro. And he was my mentor, and he showed me the ropes on how to train for a sub 3 hour marathon. That was my first marathon race I did ever. And I did Houston in 2024, finished with a 2:56 time. But I was at least had the insights and knowledge to at least seek help. So he showed me what it was like to train for a fast marathon. If I didn't have that, I would have been lost. So minimally, find people that can hold you accountable, that can educate you, and so forth. And like I said, everyone, no matter how strong you are or how much you think you know, everyone should be coached at some point. And for myself, after self-training for a few marathons, I did a 2:47 last year in Boston, self-trained, but I felt it was time to use a coach for marathon training. And so I brought on Coach Andrew Chirico, my buddy John Templeton's coach, because I see how he trained him, and that was something that I wanted to do. So it was the best thing I've done. I learned a lot. You think, like I said, you never know enough. And with that, I also needed to be protected, because when I'm self-training, I do a lot of crazy things and stuff that might have been a little sporadic and a little risky at the time. So you need someone who is outside your plan to evaluate you and evaluate what you're doing, and to write out plans after analyzing data and your workouts and what you are doing. So it just comes full circle, and it will definitely help you. And when I got into coaching, I've trained a couple guys for marathons, and you know, bike racing. And the first thing I see with marathon people getting into it is they want to do too much. They want to run too fast too early. Literally, training is like a marathon. You gotta pace it out. You gotta, you know, there are times to ramp up, times to stay steady, times to bring it back down, as far as training loads, and there's methods to it as well. So it's like how many workouts to do a week, what types. You gotta, from what I've learned, you have to always change it up, and your body can adapt. And there's no one good model where it's like you just can't be doing base all the time. You can't just be doing track all the time. You can't just be doing base and then a long run with your tempo. I feel like there's a lot of different methods, and there's not one good way, but there are many ways. So, you know, I hope this encourages you guys. Reach out if anyone is wanting help, at least advice. I'd be more than happy to give that out. I love teaching and learning and training others and helping others. But also I do like coaching people to reach their goals. So hope this helps. Appreciate y'all. See you.